I'm Laura Blumenthal on the Berkshire Heroes podcast, and joining me today is Debbie Winyard, who is a local business owner with her own hypnotherapist business in Early, and she is a member of Woodley Business Club, where they have members from Woodley and the surrounding areas. So it's Twyford, Bracknell, Early, everywhere really, just trying to make sure that the business voice is being heard. Welcome, Debbie.
Thanks for the invite.
Now, to start off, can you tell us a bit about your business, the history of it, what drove you to start it off, and anything you're particularly proud of or you find really memorable?
Yeah, so like most people, so I'm a therapist, I'm a hypnotherapist. Most people don't start off as a therapist, and I had various careers before that. But when I look back on it, all of my careers I've had are about asking questions, noticing what's not being said, getting clarity, and I think having a little bit of courage to ask things that perhaps other people won't. So I started off, I'm actually an engineer by trade, a software engineer. Then I moved on to sitting more on the business side, trying to get IT and the business to talk together so they speak the same language, so we don't have that experience of getting a system that doesn't work. And then I realized a childhood dream. I always wanted to be a detective. But I am old enough that when I wanted to join the police, I was too short because there used to be height restrictions. And then when I thought about it again, the glasses prevented me because you couldn't get in if you didn't see well enough. And then ultimately, when I was looking for another change, I realised there were new organisations out there. So I applied and I was successful. And I ultimately worked for the National Crime Agency as an intelligence officer and investigator. And throughout that, I then honed my skills and I ended up working as a specialist interviewer with vulnerable witnesses. So that's victims of people trafficking and so on. I really love my work, but it's a national and an international organisation, a lot of travel, and really I didn't know where to go next because I enjoyed living locally, but it would have meant moving for career progression. So another change. I benefited from hypnosis myself, and so I was absolutely intrigued. So I decided to really become more embedded in the local community, stay local, and that's how I retrained, and that's what brought me to where I am today.
And how old is your business, and was it easy to set up, and how do you get customers? To me, the most famous hypnotherapist is Paul McKenna, who helps people with anxiety. He works with top athletes to really get them into peak position and mentally. Is that what you try to do to help local people really reach their potential and get over phobias?
Absolutely. So Paul McKenna trained with the same place I trained. He's obviously a very, very famous hypnotherapist, although these days he's more of a hypnotist because he works not so much with therapy. But yeah, absolutely. And it is difficult. And that's one of my you asked me before, one of my proudest things is succeeding as a business person, because therapists, quite rightly, our courses are all about therapy. They're not about setting up a business. And I have to say, I've been a therapist 8 years now. This is my 8th year. And it is a business, and that's how I make my living. And I'm really, really proud of that. And Woodley Business Club is a big part of that, of how I've achieved that. Because when I was green, I didn't know anything about running a business. And like a lot of people, I thought my skill and my expertise would be enough. So I was brave enough, because I wasn't feeling that brave, to turn up there. And I found the most welcoming environment of all the networking I tried. It really is a really, really safe space, a comfortable space for anybody. And I mean anybody. You don't have to be, the finished article. So you can come to Woodley Business Club. I came, if you know about business, you know people have their 30-second or minute pitch. Tell me about your client. Tell me about your business. I didn't have one. I didn't even know those existed, if I'm honest. But it didn't matter. There were grandees, as I call them, that have been around years, who were welcoming, offered help to me. And it was absolutely fabulous. So that got me on the right foot, which is why I'm still involved today, because I couldn't believe how helpful they were and how many people gave up their time for free for me. And then I followed the advice there from other business owners. I invested some money, and I use my old skills as well, because that's what we say in Woodley Business Club. Use all the skills you've got. I started out in IT many, many years ago. So where I couldn't afford for someone to do my website, I did do it myself, and I used my IT skills to get my website up the rankings, because I was able to do that. But other things like working out who my ideal client is, who I work best with, I had no idea. So then I used another local business owner to help me with that. So yeah, so that it's hard graft, and I think what a lot of people think don't realize just how many different parts there are to it. And that's what is common when we our business owners say, we do a survey every year, what's your pain points, what do you want to, how can we help? It's actually the same themes that come up. It's how do I network effectively, how do I have the confidence to charge enough, yeah, how do I market, how do I use social media? It's the same things over and over again. And so we continue to help new business owners come through the door, and really start to fly.
And tell me more about Woodley Business Club. Is it open to all local business owners? It sounds like you have some networking and social element to what you do. How often do you meet, and are you there to really sort of lobby and ask local people to support you? Do you engage with local MPs and councillors? Be really interesting to find out what the priorities of the club is right now.
Yeah, I think we are small but mighty. I think our aim is this. In some ways, we say we're your first port of call as a new business owner. I'll give you an example. So we had a lady come for the first time to our last face-to-face meeting. Okay, her name's Georgia, and she had a brilliant idea. Her business, I will give her a business name because she's a wonderful young woman just starting out, buckets and spades. She had a fabulous idea, bucket hats for kids with long hair, they don't work, and she'd come up with this brilliant idea of how to get the hair through, and they were absolutely wonderful. She turned up she said, I do apologise, we meet once a month, sometimes it's online and sometimes it's face to face. She turned up, we meet at a local business, a cafe in Woodley precinct, and she said, I'm so sorry I couldn't get childcare, I've brought my kids. No problem. Okay, the kids were beautiful models, they were showing the hats, perfect. And she had a great idea, she'd had the hats manufactured, and she didn't know what to do next. She should have been on Dragon's Den, in my view. But anyway, so we helped her. We showed her members of the club who had experience in developing their business ideas, and she went away with lots of ideas, and hopefully she'll be back next month and tell us how she's getting on. It's a really good example. Anyone is welcome. We do have established business owners, and they're there because they like to help other people. Yeah, we've got Woodley Football Club. The general manager, he's very embedded in the local community, as are a lot of our business owners. It's interesting how many of our business owners like to volunteer locally or get involved locally. So we don't really, you asked about, I think, about lobbying. We don't really do that. We're a little bit more, I suppose, low key than that. But we do get involved locally where we can with community things. Annually at Christmas, we make a donation to local charities and so on. And we encourage speakers in. When we're online, we have speakers, and we've had all sorts of local charities. Like, for example, we've had First Days in. Alt Angel recently did a fabulous talk for us. And that benefits our members in various ways. But she was talking about time management from a neurodiverse perspective. And in fact, the tips she had were fabulous for absolutely everyone. So that's how we tend to get involved with the local community, and we don't lobby, but I think we provide this in some ways it's an entry level to networking, because one other thing that we are open about is everyone is welcome. So we don't restrict ourselves to just one marketer, one website builder, so that way they can collaborate, because we're all about collaboration, yeah, and they can work together. It's not competition, and that's very much our message. And in fact, we held an online, if you like, a panel discussion on making most of networking, and we invited other networking groups in, BNI, Ladies at Lattes, a fabulous local ladies networking, and various others, Omni, so that people could find out, and we could signpost people to different sorts of networking that perhaps give people things we can't give them.
And there are so many different businesses in the club, but how is local business at the moment? We all hear that small businesses are struggling, there's lots of obstacles. What are members saying at the moment?
So there are some members definitely that have seen a slowdown. They might be, but generally speaking, I have to say our members are, I think they're quite an optimistic bunch, and that's probably because you almost have to be as a small business owner. So some people are taking the time to invest in further training or investment or looking at their marketing and so on, and others really. But going back to what we were talking about earlier about what do people raise and what do people need help with, that hasn't really changed for our members. And it is they may become more urgent. For example, now I really need to work about getting my message clean and making sure I'm marketing to the right sort of people I work best with. So I think it is, yes, there is some businesses, my own, for example, I had my best ever year financially last year. It started off strong this year, and I'll be honest, my inquiries are down 30%. It started tailing off from February. Okay, but what I am doing, and also I will be honest, is that I've got a little bit lazy on my marketing because I was getting a lot of referrals in terms of mouth-to-mouth referrals, and so I took the foot off the gas a bit. So I need to redouble that effort so that my inquiries go up again. But the good news is that I know my fellow members will help me with that, both in terms of motivation, and practically, and also they hold me accountable. So I won't be afraid to go to our next meeting. Well, in fact, I'm saying it on air, aren't I, here, that I need to redouble my efforts. And so they will make sure I do, and that's great. And I work on my own, like a lot of small business owners, and so having a space where you can be honest and say I'm struggling a bit maybe, and then say, will you help me, and then will you hold me accountable for what we agree the action plan is absolutely great.
And what are some of the achievements of Woodley Business Club that you're most proud of? I know that you've talked about individual business owners that you're just amazed at how they've come to you and you've given them the support, but what else do you really get out of it personally and have really enjoyed?
Yeah, I think that when we got your a message, I think, from you or your office about would we like to take part, what I thought of most was what I'm most proud of, and I think a lot of people got out, was when COVID hit, which is a while ago now. It's a number of years ago now, but we immediately sprung into action because we weren't online before then. Okay, went online, we doubled our efforts from monthly to fortnightly. We adjusted because people were homeschooling, people were doing all sorts of things. We normally meet in the morning, so we did one in the morning, one in the evening, so we could really get our members engaged and support them. And a lot of our members just fell through the cracks because there were quite a lot of new businesses at the time, and this included me. So I self-employed, no furlough, and because I'd had income from somewhere else the previous year, I didn't get any of the other support. Okay, and so but it turned out through sharing ideas that there were business grants available locally through Wokingham, and so by sharing that information, we were able to help each other, and we helped a lot of people. So I am proud how we stepped up there. We moved to online. We found a format that worked, and also it meant that we could help more people because some people who couldn't used to come face to face then started joining us online. So I think it is that support, and it's knowing there's other people in the same boat as you, and also for people who work on their own, there is a social aspect. If I'm feeling a bit down in the morning and I know I'm going to Woodley Business Club, to the cafe, for example, and have a cup of coffee with friends there, then guaranteed, it is 100% guaranteed, I will come away feeling more motivated and ready to face the day. And I don't think you can ask more than that from a club.
And when it comes to customers, shoppers, what do you wish that they knew about local business, how they can support you, any misconceptions, anything you wish that they would know?
Now, here is where I think I'm not a big fan of social media in many ways, but I think I quite enjoy the posts and the responses where someone says, I want a service and I don't want to pay the earth and I want it to be cheap. Okay, and then people will respond, but you will often get business owners respond, about, and this happens regularly, about, quality, and some of the costs involved in running a business. So I do wish people sometimes would think a little bit more about that, and you are paying for someone's expertise, and their expertise is you maybe spent lots of time, thousands of pounds training, And that, in my case, for example, is distilled down into an hour of my time, which might sound a lot per hour, but all of the training and the research and the continual learning I do, I believe is valuable and therefore worth the hourly rate. So I think if people stop to think a little bit about the cost of running a business and the cost of training yourself, then perhaps they wouldn't use the word cheap so often. Maybe I'm a little bit triggered by the word cheap.
And also, everyone wants to feel valued.
Everyone wants to feel valued. And that's going back to how we help in Woodley Business Club. I think one thing we do is make sure our members know their worth. Yeah. So many people, when they start out, I would include myself, undercharge. And that isn't the way to build a sustainable business, because you can't make a living and you become resentful. So I think cost is one thing. And the other thing maybe is I wish more people realize how wonderful it is when people buy locally. And that's by expertise or a service or something physical. You know, if you think about if you buy from a multinational, you are dropping the ocean your purchase, but it could make the difference to somebody locally. Yeah, in terms of paying a bill or giving them that boost that, you know, they're doing something right, or just, and I think that's so important. And, you know, there is a misconception that maybe bigger companies can do things cheaper. That isn't always true. And then, but going back to a previous comment I made, I think, you know, the quality of the local businesses around here is phenomenal, and people should check them out and give them a chance.
No, we're very lucky. And I'm thinking about your own business. Do you have a client in mind or someone that you really realized that you helped, that all your skills, all your training made such a difference to their quality of life or achieving what they wanted to achieve?
Yeah. So obviously my work is confidential, so I'll talk generally, and I might in this mash up a couple of clients together. But one I do a variety of work with clients. Sometimes it's something what we call simple phobias. You know, if someone's got a phobia of flying, doesn't come from anywhere in particular, or maybe one bad flight, that's normally a few sessions to sort out. Yeah. However, sometimes things are a little bit more deep rooted. And I helped a client once who came to me for something called emetophobia, which is fear of being sick. Okay. But it turned out it was really deep rooted. And we did some work together, about 10 sessions altogether. And in the end, she realized she had this subconscious inner conflict, because ultimately she wasn't doing the career she wanted to do. Yeah, so she was miserable in her work. She couldn't work out why. And then so and a fear of being sick can be absolutely debilitating. It can stop people doing anything, because it often develops into a germ phobia, and then people worry about so many things. It really restricts life. It's really, really debilitating. Anyway, ultimately, what fixed her symptom? The symptom was fear of being sick. The solution was to realize where she wanted to go in life and actually meet her own personal values and goals. And so she had a career change, and she did something completely different, something creative. And I know she's doing well, because in this new career, she had to sing. And she came back to me a couple of years later and she said, "Debbie, I'm really doing well. However, I'm really nervous about singing in front of people. Can you help?" And I could. And that was just one session to help her with that. Yeah. So, and stories like that, you know, they keep you going. They're absolutely fabulous. Yeah. And it made a real difference to her life. And it's a really good example. Okay, I'm a hypnotherapist, so I work with the subconscious, which is just the part of your thoughts and feelings that you're not consciously aware of. It's nothing. It is scientific. It's not very woo-woo. You haven't met me for very long, but I'm one of the least woo-woo people you're likely to meet. And yeah, it's when something like that, in this case, the subconscious had given her the symptom of fear of being sick, but the actual problem, that was just like a signal. It's a shame it didn't put a label on it. You're not living the life you should be, yeah? But it didn't. It gave her this physical symptom. And when she resolved that inner conflict, then she really started to fly. And that's so interesting. That is amazing. Yeah.
Well done, Debbie, on sort of getting to the nub of the issue as well. That's not what I thought you were going to tell me at all. So that's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there is the subconscious is very powerful, and it can be very, I suppose, stubborn in some ways. But there are cases. I mean, hypnotherapy is known for stop smoking. These days, it's mainly stop vaping, sadly, and whatever comes up after vaping. Yeah, but it's and those sorts of sessions, which are dealing with just a habit for most people. Sometimes it's a crutch, but if it's just a habit, then yes, hypnotherapy, you don't have to get to the bottom of it. You are changing a habit, and hypnosis is a learning state. It's very good at breaking habits and creating new ones. So that might have been perhaps what you expected me to talk about, or something like that. But yeah, but it's useful for lots of things, deeper work and habit breaking.
And for someone who'd like to join Woodley Business Club, how do they find you online? Is it free? What would the steps be to join?
It's very, very simple. It's we have a website. If you search for Woodley Business Club, on there are the events, and you can just sign up on the Eventbrite. They're free, and as I say, we meet once a month, and we alternate between online when we have a speaker, and then face to face when it's more freer networking. But everyone is welcome, whether you've just got an idea, you don't have a business yet. Whether you're brand new, whether you're established and you want to perhaps share your expertise, everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. It's completely free. We talk about membership, but there's no membership fee. Members are people who come. It's as simple as that.
Final question. Debbie, if you were Prime Minister, which law would you introduce or change, and why?
Oh, okay. I don't know about a law, okay, because I'm not even sure this is in law, but I know criminal law, but no other kind of law. I think our education system needs a reimagining. Okay, we do get quite a lot of young people come, young entrepreneurs, if you like, young business people, lots of ideas. What they don't have is the skills they need for business, and I'm not sure our current education system with GCSEs and A levels helps them with that. I think that is the current system is based on people who are good academically and want to go on to university, but you're missing out a whole ton of people, and probably the sort of people that will make great local business owners. And so I would like to see a reimagining of it. You can do business GCSE, but I'm not sure that sets you up for setting up your own business. So that's where I would put the focus, I think.
So which skills do they not have that you think they need to be taught?
I think, well, it's the same skills, curiously, that the older business owners come to us. So these might be people who've been through the university system as well. So they are around, some of them are quite simple: budgeting, marketing, time management and organization. Because for someone like me, I am really organized. I have no problem organizing my time, but I appreciate for a lot of people that's one of their main challenges. And then funding, things like that, and projections, and lots and lots. So I think it's real practical things. We're not talking about great marketing theories or business theories. It's actually concrete courses that can help people, give them the skills they need when they have an idea for a business. Because quite often our business owners have a great skill in an area. They might have transitioned out of corporate life and then using the same skills, or they may have pivoted like I did to something on the face of it completely different. And I trained hard at university for that qualification, for my hypnotherapy qualification. But unless I've come across all of those other things I mentioned, then I don't have those skills, and there's a danger my business fails because I've just been focusing on my skill as a therapist.
I would absolutely agree with you. I am always quite shocked how entrepreneurship is never really given as an option for young people in schools or at university or later in life. And I think people think entrepreneurs are Richard Branson or Stephen Bartlett, and that's it. But you can be a sole trader, you can have a small business, whatever. It's just trying to plant that seed that is an option. It's not just corporate life, and that's pretty much it. So I totally agree with you. And I think we're really missing a trick on not teaching young people this is an option for you. It might not be for straight after school, but just think about it later in life when you've got the confidence and skills to maybe stand on your own 2 feet and start something from scratch. And give them those skills of this is how you market, this is how you plan to scale, this is how you collaborate with other like-minded people.
Definitely.
So you're not alone. And that is something we're missing. And I'm not quite sure if other countries, perhaps elsewhere in Europe, are doing that better. But I'm very glad that you said that, because I thoroughly agree, Debbie.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Debbie Winyard, for joining me on Berkshire Heroes. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
And you. Thank you very much.